Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us. I'm here
Hello.
tonight. Hey, hey. Looks like the chat is already hopping, so welcome, everybody. I'm here with Jason Willis tonight to talk about his System Apocalypse Liberty 1, head of the class. So welcome, Jason. Thanks for joining me.
Well, thank you. I'm still trying to get the chat working, so I can see what you guys are saying, but I'm probably just going to have to respond verbally when I do respond. So I'm giving up on trying to get the chat working. It's not being agreeable for me.
Yeah, that's fair. It's tricky. I had trouble the first night too, so. Well, thanks for joining us. I really appreciate you taking time out. We're what, 4 days out till, let's see. Yeah, 4 days out until at least I arrive in Denver. Obviously, the con doesn't start till Friday, but a lot of us are coming in on Thursday. So,
Yep.
Yeah, it's the final sprint. So, yeah, getting excited. I just want to say thank you to Richie too for letting us use his podcast channel. Really appreciate it, Richie. It's been you've been with me every single one of these, so appreciate that as well. Yeah. Yeah. Well, let's dive in, Jason. I've got your book, The Head of the Class. I will say that the pace that I've had to read books has finally gotten to me. So I've only made it halfway through, unfortunately, but hopefully enough to have a good conversation tonight.
It's a big boy.
Yeah, it's a chunk. So if you're one of the lit RPG readers that like the chunky reads, yeah, go ahead and pick it up because it's pretty hefty. Yeah. So we got Tao Wong is on the cover with you as a co-author, and the audio is done by Daryl Mayfield. The audio is top notch too. I've kind of
So good.
oscillated back and forth between the book itself and the audio, and it's really well done. So this particular book is apocalypse-focused lit RPG that includes kind of science fiction and fantasy elements within its game mechanics. It also has a multiple point of view kind of near story elements to it. The main one, however, follows Caleb. He's a teacher, and as the apocalypse descends, he gets abducted and forced to be a teacher for a whole bunch of alien children. In my head, they are kind of insectoid. I think okay, yeah.
Hexapods.
Yeah, there you go. Yep. And the book kind of opens as a human strike team tries to take control of the ship that he's teaching on. And it was reminiscent of kind of like a school shooter sort of situation where he ends up being the teacher that stands in front of the children to try to protect them. Yeah.
Yep.
So very cool. So definitely suggest you guys pick it up and give it a read if you haven't. But we'll go ahead and get into everything. Looks like the Steve. I saw Pop's name. Looks like the chat is hopping. So keep chatting with each other, and we'll get to reader questions here in a little bit. So my first question to you, Jason, is how do you prefer to be addressed? Should we call you Jason at the con? Or do you have?
I answer to Jason, big guy, Jay, Jace, hey you with the face, anything.
Yeah. Now, did you did you have a J first name just so you could be in lit RPG? It seems like the J names are pretty prevalent for main characters and
Yes,
authors.
I was Connor, and I got a time machine, and I had to go back in time to convince my mother in order to change the name in order to be adjacent so that I could write in lit RPG. Thankfully, there was no Back to the Future type situations.
That's
I
good.
was safe.
Yeah, good. Well, I missed an opportunity. I should have changed my name to a J too, but we're running out of them. So looking online though, when I did a little bit of research about you, other than a short story that was published in like a System Apocalypse like short story book, this looks like it's your first published book. So congratulations. Is that true?
It is. This is my first published novel. I do have the short story. There will be another short story in System Apocalypse 3 coming out. I think that's announced. So if not, oops. But I think it's announced. It's that story is going to follow Jerry's intro into the System Apocalypse universe a little bit more closely. The story that's not fully told in this one. I'm looking forward to that coming out. So that'll be my second, and then I'm also working on book 2, but I want to say hi to everybody. I see the awesome long list of names and lots of names that I recognize. I'm not going to go through all of them because there are awesomely enough too many, but hi to everybody.
Yeah. So Pop saying that he's only 20% done with the book, and yeah, we're gonna try not to have too many spoilers in here for you, but we're just gonna talk just in general about the world and some of the character choices that hopefully are pretty prevalent right out of the gate. So, but Jerry is one of my fan favorite characters. We'll talk about Jerry in a bit. Yeah. Well, congratulations. So the book came out in October 2024. So not less than a year ago.
Yeah.
And it sounds like you're already pretty far into book 2. So well done. Yeah. Now I know that with Tao Wong System Apocalypse Universe, this kind of takes place within that universe. Can you kind of explain to all of us how that works? How much direction do you take? Do you get how does it work for you?
Tao works individually with each author that he works with. He sets up the anthologies and he has short story submissions. And if he really likes the short story, he'll publish it. And if he really likes it, he'll let you send a outline to possibly write a novel or novels in the universe. And if he likes that, then he publishes it. He is generally, he does do feedback and editing, but he doesn't do the writing. So it's his universe, my book, or the other co-authors' books, but he does a different process with each person. With me, it's I do a lot of, or did a lot of outlining and planning with the book. So a lot of times it isn't him saying you can't do this. It's me saying, hey, can I do this?
Mm-hmm.
As I'm wondering. I've done a lot of role playing, a lot of tabletop role playing. So a lot of times if you wonder something, you ask the DM, hey, can I do this? And the DM will tell you yes or no.
Mm-hmm.
So it worked really well for me to be working in somebody else's system because I just treated him like he's the DM.
Nice. So with that, did you do a lot of like custom, like, do you have like a sheet of like how classes work or like skills and stuff work, or is it more up to you and you just kind of have it fit the system itself?
His base system is very, very much set.
Mm-hmm.
And the way that the system works. Now there's wiggle room because of the nature of the system in his universe. I don't want to give too many spoilers, but his system has quirks and wiggle rooms possible in ways that others don't. And it's very customizable. So the system components and the way that the system works as a whole never change at all. But I don't think there's a single ability other than like an inspect type ability that is used in my ability that wasn't entirely generated for this. I think everybody has unique classes, unique abilities that aren't. I mean, there's a bounty hunter, but it's a different kind of bounty hunter than in the other series for that. So, the powers are unique, the characters are unique, the classes are unique, stuff like that, and it lets you do a lot of fresh things in a universe that has continuity as well.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. That's a nice way to do it because, it's a heavy burden for authors to have to create a universe, and all the powers and all the systems, all the system, by themselves. So I can see where that would make it maybe a little bit easier to step into lit RPG.
It's easier to stay consistent.
Mm-hmm.
It can be a little bit harder when you're making your own, you can just make stuff up and you don't have to then look stuff up or ask somebody else, an external source, can you or can't you do that? But yeah, there are advantages and disadvantages either way. One of the things that's cool about working as kind of a mercenary in somebody else's universe is that's the kind of thing that Disney or any of the big name companies will look for on a resume if you're trying to write movies or books, tie-ins and stuff like that. And there could be a lot of money there, but I saw the opportunity, so I went for it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, very nice. It looks like we've got a question from the audience. Pop's asking if you do have like detailed backstories going back for some of your characters, like Lee or the Humanist, and the rest of the characters.
I do. I know a lot. I don't know everything that you might want to know, but I know their family setup, I know their family history, I know their jobs and general stuff like that. I know how things started for them when things hit the fan with apocalypse, stuff like that. I even know with Lee as an example, since you asked about Lee, I know about his first foray into business and learning how to be a little bit ruthless and not let things stop him was a lemonade stand when he was younger that local official, the local police came and shut down, and then he figured out how to get the permits and stuff like that. There's a whole backstory that was actually for a short time in the book and was removed for being a little bit too much of a tangent. But yeah, I know it was actually a cute little story. But yes, short answer is yes, but not to the degree of some people. There are some authors that know everything from like cradle to grave and have like 1,000 pages of notes on their characters. I have key information just on each of them. I don't know everything.
Yeah. Nothing like the cutthroat world of lemonade stands to help you prepare for the apocalypse. I love it.
Yep.
All right. Yeah. So it sounds like you are RPG, you're a tabletop gamer, you have video gaming, board gaming, a lot of gaming in your experience. What made you want to take the leap from gaming to, being an author, to being a writer? And how did your gaming experience help with that?
Well, for wanting to be an author, that was just, I loved books so much. And you read enough books, you start wanting to make them. And so I started writing poetry, writing short stories, writing things like that. And that was before Lit RPG, to my knowledge at least, was ever a thing, although soon thereafter, like the Dragonlance books started coming out and things like that. So I always wanted to write those kind of fantasy books, and I was sending in to short fiction markets stories that I was getting back feedback like, this isn't exactly what we're looking for. We like the prose, we like the dialogue. I was getting what I did not realize was fantastic replies from some of the top markets. I just thought they replied to people. I didn't realize most people were just getting form letters at the time. But this isn't quite what we're looking for. Come to find out that what they weren't looking for is what the audience generally likes, because the short fiction market didn't want dragons, they didn't want elves, they didn't want anything Western, they didn't want anything usual or classical, they didn't want anything that had tropes. They wanted entirely new stuff that was cutting new ground or was cutting new ground for the publishing market. It was a bunch of older people that were longtime readers who wanted something new and weren't trying to appeal to new audiences because they weren't reaching new audiences. They only had small readerships and stuff like that. So it wasn't until Lit RPG started coming out that there was a new boom in the kind of things that I wanted to write and read in the first place.
Yeah. I think that's a kind of a prevalent, issue. There's a lot of, kind of contention between Lit RPG and some of the more established, minds in the industry, and thinking about like what types of books and stories people want to read right now. And it's remarkable because Lit RPG's got a lot of people buying books. Right, there's a need here, a lot of hunger for the types of books that are coming out of the genre. So yeah, well, it looks like Pepper's got a question for you. She says, helping with creating and setting some of the monsters for this was one of my favorite parts. What is your favorite part of creating this book?
She's deserving of a shout out for helping with the setting stuff. I did role playing and acting and gaming all my life, so I wanted to do characters' actions and dialogue and stuff like that. And the setting stuff, I never was the DM, so the setting stuff is less natural for me. So I would say this is kind of where they're at, throwing a bunch of stuff, and then she would write it out as the kind of setting details that she'd like, and I'd pick and choose a handful of them because the pace for this is not the kind of pace for the kind of book that she likes. She likes really, really detailed, really lots of detail, and this is kind of an action-y book. So I'll take out a couple of cool ideas that she had and make it my own and stuff like that. But she definitely helped develop the my favorite part was, after having written it, after having developed it all, after having going through all the editing to the point that I'm absolutely sick of it, having Daryl narrate it, and I'm able to experience it again completely for the first time and go, oh, that's actually really good. I like that. And he also adds something to it that's just amazing. Daryl is a rock star. We were so lucky to get him. With unlimited money and my take of any narrator, I wouldn't replace him even with the top people in the field that are more well established already. If any other authors listen to this, or anybody talks to anybody, authors that listen to it, push his work, because Daryl is a genius, and I think he's going to be a big part of the future of this genre if he gets the respect and attention he deserves. He's just fantastic.
The narration is really, really great. Do you, when you're listening to him give, I've wondered about this for authors, and when you listen to your book and him narrating it, does it still seem like your book, or does it kind of take on a life of its own?
It's both. I can listen to it as if it's an entirely new experience, and it makes it new for me, so that I'm hearing it like it's for the first time, which is really cool. And yet I do know the book and I know what happens, but I'm kind of able to put that out of my mind while I'm listening to it, partly because it is immersive, and partly because he's so great at what he's doing. So a little bit of both. I can't give a straight answer on that one.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Well, let's dive in a little bit closer to the story. So for Head of the Class, I really like the main character, Caleb. Now, the point of view does jump around a bit, but I would say he's who I would consider the main character. Would you agree with that?
He is. If he's not, it's Buddy, with the focus mainly between him and Lee, as a kind of a contrast of too soft and too hard, too weak and too strong. It's basically too heroic with too high ideals, and too anti-hero right by the point of villain.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a kind of a contrast between them. But yeah, as a general rule, at least to the point that I'm going to answer the question before book 3 is finished and people have read it, yes, that is the case. There is a hidden answer that is more complex, in the same way that Darth Vader is the main character in Star Wars.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. Well, we'll put a pin in that. For book 1 so far, Caleb seems to be the main character, and he's not your typical overpowered warrior, but he is that teacher I was talking about at the beginning. Some of his powers that are fun include show and tell, where he can kind of hologram out what he's talking about for his classroom or for other characters. He also has classroom supplies, where he can make supplies in this classroom just kind of appear instead of having to rifle around and find them. What was the inspiration for such an unusual main character and that kind of being his focus?
So I listened to the System Apocalypse books and loved them. And when I was doing that, like with He Who Fights with Monsters and a few others like Arcane Ascension, as I listen to the books, I have to pause them because I end up daydreaming and putting myself in the universe and playing with the system in my head, sometimes potentially for days before I can even get through them. And System Apocalypse was one of those. And so when I saw that Dow was offering to have people write stories for that, I was like, I can definitely play in that sandbox. But the request that he put out was he didn't want the classic heroes for this particular anthology. He didn't want the you don't start out as a classic with the classic hero powers, but you twist those powers into something that makes you epic at combat and as a cheat that just makes it you the king of the universe type thing. He wanted something entirely different. And so I started out actually with a short story that was going to be about an insurance agent in the apocalypse, which, because I used to be an insurance agent with State Farm. and from some other stuff.
Yeah.
And so it was going to be, and it's a clever idea. It was going to be when people go out on adventures, their community can invest and their families can invest for an insurance policy so that if they die, you get some of the experience and treasure and things like that
Okay. Yeah.
back for
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
community. Um, please write that book. Uh, I may someday, or at least I might do a short story. But I was working on developing that story, and it wasn't quite gelling for me the way that I wanted it, particularly that moment. I happened to watch a clip of Mr. Rogers, the old TV show, Mr. Rogers
Mhm.
talking to Congress. And I'd recommend looking it up. It's so cool. But Mr. Rogers was, this was when his show was brand new. And they were trying to get funding from Congress for like $1 million to really get the children's television programming off the ground. And they sent Mr. Rogers to do it, Fred Rogers. And when he did, they start out, they're the grumpy old white men, because this was back in like the 50s or 60s or whatever, grumpy old men, and they're all serious and somber and acting all like hard asses and stuff. And by the end, you could see he's just touched them and changed them. And they gave him a standing ovation. They didn't even vote. And the one that was running the thing was, I guess you just got your money. And I was like, that's amazing. And he's just so soft, so caring. He just loves people so much. And it gave me flashbacks to Mr. Rogers when I was a kid. And I turned to my wife, hi wife, because she's watching, and hi other Pepper. I turned to my wife, and she said, and I said to her, we need more of this and less of everything else.
Mm-hmm.
Because as you and I were talking about earlier, even then, these were pretty dark times. Back then it was COVID. There was a lot of outrage mobs, and it just extreme, justified and otherwise, but often justified. It was a crazy time, dark time. And so I was like, we need more of this and less of everything else. And so I threw it out, and I was like, I want somebody that's more of a Mr. Rogers figure, somebody that's caring and stuff, because who would be more out of place in a brutal alien system, apocalyptic hellscape where you get more powerful primarily by killing than Mr. Rogers.
Yeah.
And I thought, I want that. And then I'm thinking, I want him protecting children. And I thought he should be protecting alien children, because that's another step to show it doesn't matter if they're human or aliens, they're children and they need to be protected. And so then I thought, okay, well, then there's monsters coming for them. And what can he do? Because he's not the type to have the power. He's not powerful. He doesn't have those skills. What can he do if the monsters are coming for him? And then I thought, I'll make it human monsters and make it even more of a twist, have it be human monsters that come from. That was kind of the inspiration, and everything else kind of sprang from there. And some of it comes as it goes,
Yeah, you've got this nice, like, are humans monsters? Are aliens monsters? You got this nice little like conversation going on between him and the kids and the humans that are monstrous or maybe not, or like that. It's like a constant battle throughout the whole book of like who really are the monsters, who's bad, who's good.
Yep.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah. Well, that's great. The Mr. Rogers moment, is kind of immortalized in that first couple chapters, which is, our main character Caleb has one of those moments too. So yeah, definitely hit that note. So I want to ask the chat, if you had a teacher, main character in a lit RPG, what powers would you give that teacher? What would a skill be that they could utilize? I'm curious to see if you have any ideas of, what Caleb's skill set might include. While you're thinking about that, I'm going to ask another question here. Some of the secondary lines of the story follow the original strike team, the human monsters that kind of come to kill the kids, and the ramifications of what happens in that first chapter. Their leader Lee and one of his squad mates Quinn in particular, and kind of how that splits the team over, following orders versus not becoming monsters. Talk a little bit about this, like are we monsters? Are we not monsters? It's this theme that plays out in the book.
Okay. Quinn is one of the most interesting characters to me and one of the most challenging to write because she is altered in ways that make her less human. And I don't want to give too much away for spoilers because I do describe how that's happened and in her viewpoint. And so it's tricky in that to some degree she can't be at that stage as human as she would have been. But she's definitely the darker, more violent, more. And the both of them, they were basically the same when they went into that ship, and then when they first interacted with Caleb, and he was able to reach Lee in ways that he couldn't reach Quinn.
Yeah,
and it changed Quinn. It changed Lee in ways that made him different enough that they don't have the same viewpoint on these issues anymore. I'm trying so hard not to give spoilers, but I do think I really like the moment in that scene where he's about to reach her and then things go off the rails.
Yeah.
And not because anybody is intentionally doing anything wrong, but because they're actually trying to do something good. I like the interplay in that scene with those characters. That was hard to get right on that particular scene when you've got the different characters interacting. It's so hard to be. Can we get a vote from audience when people are trying to talk about books and stories on a podcast? How much spoilers do you want versus how much not? I don't mean just specifically for this. I'm just asking as a first question for everybody. Like, what do you like? What do you guys think?
Yeah, Richie, you're the expert here.
I was gonna say, do you want the professional, like, amateur to weigh in on this one?
Yeah,
Sure.
Bring it.
So we tend to, when it comes to spoilers, I think within the first 25% of the book, I think that's safe to talk about, because that's going to be where you really get the hook into see if they're going to continue a series. Now, there are certain series, especially ones that have been developed as a web serial, it's a little harder to do that.
No, that's fair.
I think if you're giving away the major plot twist, then you're fucking up somewhere.
Yeah.
Like, hey, I'm going to use this as a spoiler for a video game that came out in 1997. So if I offend anyone, I'm sorry. But if you give away the spoiler, like, on the lines of Sephiroth kills Aerith, then you kind of fucked up somewhere. Or Snape kills Dumbledore. It's that kind of thing. Like, if you're giving that away on the podcast, you fucked up somewhere. But I think if it's the first, I would say at max 33%, maybe even the halfway point of the book, you're good. It's all, I think it's fine. So that's my way on the subject.
Yeah, it seems like the audience in general kind of agrees with that. They're not too worried about spoilers.
So to more generally answer the question, you've got one character who is who's a hard ass who was just on the verge of absolute villainy. He was an anti-hero at the most extreme level, who's gone through hell and had his life destroyed, his wife and children slaughtered, and he was on the verge of just becoming a true monster. But referencing, talking about Mr. Rogers and talking about humanity and seeing this remnant of the old world made him remember his children and the kind of man he would want to be, and it helped him back off. Whereas the other character can't be reached through no fault of hers, because part of the torture and the hellish experiences she's been through unlocked powers for her that are cybernetic, that let her segment her consciousness. And so she's put away the vulnerable parts of herself, and she can't even access them.
Mhm.
And so they can't reach at this stage through those means the humanity that she doesn't have because it's cybernetically blocked off.
Yeah.
And so it creates an interesting conflict between the two of them.
Yeah. Yeah. I think we're gonna. I like at con. I think we're gonna have a sit down and have a conversation about the implications of being able to block off some of your traumatic events that maybe like what that does to a person. So we'll put a pin in that conversation. But yeah, definitely
Cool.
gonna sit down and chat. So let's. So I just want to review. We had a couple people answer the what superpowers they would give a teacher. Pepper says that she would give the teacher pay attention to be one of their powers, so that they could direct everybody's attention to whatever they were saying, or maybe in a fight you could draw attention to that person. We've got another person indicating that maybe some of the esoteric properties of mathematics would be enough to inflict confusion on the enemy, or like
Oh,
have
cool.
their strategy be confused. That would be a fun one as well. So yeah, some
Pay
good answers
attention
there.
actually is one of Caleb's powers in the book, and it's different than a usual taunt, but it does work. And it's actually in some ways a little bit better than a usual taunt because he can point and say, pay attention. And so it's not just a self taunt on you. He can direct your attention wherever he wants.
Direct your taunt. That's nice. I could see like give detention, like put somebody in a penalty box for a couple minutes during a fight or something would be fun too. Although I don't think him as a teacher is giving out too many
Detention is on the teacher power list.
Is it?
For Caleb? He chose not to take it because he's not going to do that.
That
Also,
tracks. He is not the teacher that puts people in timeout. No.
Yeah. But it was like it like isolates them and yeah. But it's a classroom only power, so it wouldn't have helped in a lot of these situations anyway.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I see that. All right, so we're going to go back into the questions. So native populations play an important role on the ground in this series, specifically in this book, the Ojibwe. I particularly appreciated that you included a two-spirit character, Jerry. Can you talk a little bit about what inspired that native narrative?
Well, when I was first writing the story, I was introducing characters. And as I'm introducing characters, whenever something pops into my head, I used to use, and it just happens to me now automatically because I've done it so much, but I used to use something I learned from Orson Scott Card, which was when you first come up with an idea, think about, well, maybe I should toss that one out and use something else, and then toss that out and use something else. Don't take the low-hanging fruit, because the reason it's low-hanging fruit, the reason you're thinking of it in the first place, is because it is so commonly done and overdone that it's the thing that comes readily to mind. And so as I'm introducing characters, I'm sometimes doing that process. And I also just like, I just personally, just my taste runs to variety. So I don't think about representation. Maybe I should, but I don't. I don't think about politics or any of those kind of things. But I don't want to have everybody have the same name. I don't want to have everybody have the same spelling of the name. I don't want to have everybody in the hair color, skin color, gender, or sexuality. And so you just reach for all of the different elements of life. We've got so many different kinds of people and so many different experiences. And so you just draw from it naturally from the ones that we're going to need to make sure that not everybody's the same. And so in this case, it's the characters weren't as developed when the first short story was done, which is the first short story is the first chapter of the book.
Yeah.
As well. And so I'm like, I've got this character, I've got this character, I've got and so I wanted to introduce somebody that was a little bit different, and I just put this one is an androgynous character, was the first thing that I put in. And at that point, it was just an androgynous character, and I hadn't made up anything different about it at that first stage. And then as you go back and you develop it, well, why are they androgynous? In this case, it gets into all of those reasons. And I live in Minnesota, so there's a high native population, and always was when I grew up. I also grew up in Illinois, so there was a lot of diversity, a lot more Black people than there are in the Minnesota area and stuff. And there was a time when some of the native characters were almost removed because I reached out to the community representatives and talked with them for a good amount of time. They were really nice to me to talk with me and answer my questions and let me know any concerns that they might have. And there was a time when they're like, if you're asking kind of off the record, I'm not going to give the name, but kind of off the record, we'd kind of prefer if you didn't do it at all. And I'm like, I get that on the one hand, because the native population, there's, with Black people, with Mexican people, there are so much representation in, and like I said, I don't think primarily about representation when I'm writing, but I do think about it in general because everybody's talking about it. There's not as many native people in the media, and it's not as diversely represented. So I told them I could get why you wouldn't want a main viewpoint character to be that who then represents the whole community. But I said, but this is set here. And so I don't want to eliminate them from the story when they would definitely be there. Because not only is the native population here and pretty abundant here, but they also have a lot of survival skills that would serve them well, at least on average, more than the average non-native person. And so they said, yeah, no, absolutely. If you, not the main character for the book, but friends, other people that they know, other people that are involved, that sounds like a great idea. And they gave me a lot of advice, and I even talked with them about the fact that I wanted to have a two-spirit character and so forth. And so they were really, really helpful and gave me a lot of good insight in that as well. That made it easier to do that. The initial impulse was just an initial impulse. I just hadn't. There was nothing noble or special or good about it. I just thought of it and I wanted to use it.
Yeah. Well, good for you. I'm really impressed that you engaged the community and had that conversation back and forth, which is really important to make sure that you're not stepping on, to your point, maybe easy storylines or easy, media ways that people have dealt with different populations. So yeah, well done. Well, thanks for that. I've got a couple more questions, but if you're in the audience and you have a question of your own, definitely slide it in here and we'll make sure that we get it asked tonight. So when we talked about how this is part of the system apocalypse world, and we talked about, how much of the mechanics were kind of yours versus part of that world, it sounds like you had a lot of flexibility in that. Was there, I guess, beyond just the mechanics of the world, are there characters that are maybe in other System Apocalypse books that make an appearance or that might show up in the future? Or do you have plans for that? How does that organized between the writers?
There are a few that are referenced. One of there's the Bounty Hunter series of books, and there was a monster in his that I really, really liked, and so I did put a reference to those monsters in the book. There's little references like that in book 2, which isn't even finished yet and definitely isn't out. I have Magic Soap, which is a nod to the story The Audacity of Soap that is in the second anthology along with my story. So there's little things like that. There wasn't really a lot of opportunity for crossover in this book because they're spread out so far in the world, but there are some things. I don't think there's a single character in my book that is also in the others as an individual. There are little hints and references and little nods. There's a couple of there's inside jokes. There's a lot of inside jokes. There's a reference to the fact that a backhanded reference to the fact that John's system companion in the main series is always like watching TV and movies and referencing human culture and so little things like that more than anything, but not as much. There might actually be in later books a little bit, these later books, a little bit more with the crossover, because my villain is dealing with governments and other peoples on the planet, and his books have that kind of thing as well. So there may be some actual crossover there, but there isn't so far in book one.
Okay. So maybe some future ones, which kind of
Yeah.
brings me to my next question. You've already told us you're halfway-ish through book 2, which is great news because I'm definitely going to sign up for that. But how long do you think this series is? Do you have an idea in mind? I know you've talked about book 3. Is it going to be a trilogy?
Yeah, this one is definitely going to be a trilogy. I had thought about the possibility of 4 or 5, but I landed on trilogy. I think for this particular series, that's the strongest. I could water it down and spread it out, but I don't want to do that. I want to keep it as powerful and as condensed as possible.
Yeah.
And I also have other projects that I have in mind that I want to work on, and other sandboxes that I want to play in. I just want to say first, briefly, I've been reading everybody's private chat. You'll notice my eyes kind of go over here, or the one that works does, or go over here, and that's me looking at and sometimes smiling and reacting to all the messages that you guys are putting. So I'm all caught up on the messages. Do you mind if I answer Steve's question real quick?
Go for it. Yeah.
No, chatting with Harry Turtlelove is much cooler than you would think it would be. He is a great guy. He's one of my favorite authors, and I got lucky in that the book of Harry Turtledove's that I love the most is The Case of the Toxic Spell Dump, and I adore that book, and there aren't apparently many people that do. So when I brought it up, when it's a book he loves that didn't go over as well, because it's so different than what he normally writes more historical, more serious stuff, and this was a comedy and fantasy, even though it's also got a lot of the elements that he's for. So apparently he really appreciated the fact that I was a fan of that book in particular, because it doesn't get as much love as he would hope it does.
Yeah. We've got a second question here. What is the best pizza in Pittsburgh?
I've actually never been to Pittsburgh. I can tell you great pizza in Chicago, and I can tell you great pizza in New York, but I can't tell you great pizza in Pittsburgh. However, I would say the one in front of you, because then you can eat it. If it's not in front of you, then it's not so good.
Yeah, there you go. Broken Joker actually has the question I was going to ask you is, once you're done with this trilogy or with these books, what do you have kind of dancing around in your head for your next series?
I have not gotten permission to talk about this, but I have a book starring you know how books have the main character and then they have a mentor character?
Mm-hmm.
I have a opportunity to write the story of a mentor character in a currently hot series that I'm looking forward to playing with.
Nice.
And I also have other books. When I'm done with this book, I might be writing 2 at a time. The first one in the next project and this one. I find I do better when I'm working on 2 projects at once. Working on one project kind of burns me out, and also sometimes it's just more fun to have. Usually there's something fun that gets you excited, and then you have to go through the hard work, and then you can go back to something fun, and it's easy to bounce around. I personally find it's better to work on 2 books than 1, but
yeah, no, that's fair. Are your books, do you intend to continue to write in other people's world, kind of systems or whatever, or do you think you're going to strike out on your own at some point here?
I'm definitely going to strike out on my own at some point. I do also like working in other people's universes, and I think that's kind of what I'm going to do, is do both at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
One in one and one in the other, prioritizing whichever one is. I'd probably prioritize the other person's universe. I'll probably, when I write my own, I'll probably write 3 before I release even the first one.
Mm-hmm.
And I might even do it through Royal Road. I haven't decided yet. But I don't want I don't want to have the pressure. I've got a day job that I actually like, and where they let me listen to books and podcasts and audiobooks all day long. So I'm not necessarily even trying to outcreate my day job.
Yeah.
Although if I made enough, I definitely would just do this full time. But I lost track of the question.
I think it was writing. Are you going to strike out on your own or stay in somebody else's system? And you were talking about like prioritizing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. If I have, it's so hard to break in right now as an original author, unless you get insanely lucky. So having the opportunity and the trust of some of the top authors in the genre to say, hey, I'd like you to play in my sandbox is a really nice thing to have, because
Mhm.
those get kind of auto advertised and they have a built-in fandom to some degree that follows it. And it'll let me build up my own over time, so that when I do my first and release it, it will have
Yeah.
maybe a little bit more of
A little bit more else behind it. I think you'd be surprised. You're probably going to pick up more people with this first trilogy that you're writing than you think. Yeah. So yeah, it'll be fun to see kind of your methodology of getting out there and how that goes. So yeah. You used a word earlier that just made me laugh, because you wrote 180,000 words for this first book, and you said something about how a trilogy is going to be watered down.
No,
Or
there's more
you
than a
don't want to
trilogy.
extend it past to a trilogy because it might be watered down. And it's like,
Yeah.
man, you're talking about 180,000 words per book. Like I said, it's a chunk, right?
It's a big
How much are you writing a day, or how quickly do you think you're going to be putting out books here, writing these tomes?
All right, so it's tricky because I'm actually a very fast writer, and I'm even a very fast editor, or at least I was in book one. And then I was through the first 50,000, 60,000 words of book two. But then I got a horrific illness, unless you're comparing it to what's going on with Shirtlein, in which case I had a minor cough. But for me, it was major. I had systemic infections stemming from horrible circulation problem in my leg, from a genetic issue, and it was bad enough that they had to put me in the emergency room, put me on an IV antibiotic in addition to the pill antibiotics, and it was 6-7 months of that as they were trying to get me scheduled for surgery, and I'd missed time from work to get the treatments, and then my PTO was gone, and I've got great insurance, but I couldn't take the time off from work in order to get the whole week off for the surgeries, or 2 weeks for both surgeries. And so it destroyed my ability to write during that time. And I am not 100% when it comes to writing speed. And then just as I was starting to get writing speed a little bit back up, I got this delightful distraction of a convention pulling my attention. But I have to say, peopling was therapeutic, because when I was that sick for that long and that low energy, and also then working on top of it and working on the writing, I wasn't socializing or peopling at all. And so it was therapeutic to have the distraction, especially like many of the names that we see over here. You got BJ and Tiffany and all the awesome, and Pop and all the awesome people that were there from the early days of we started so early in this process.
Yeah. Well, it's I think a lot of us writers are fighting for our lives to get our word counts done right now as we lead up to con. So hopefully that just leads to a lot of inspiration and a lot of word count post con. I think we're all going to come back excited. So yeah. Well, we do have a request that's been mentioned a couple times to have you recite The Great Divide. don't know
I
if you have that
don't
handy.
have it on this computer. I would need to
Mm,
pull it up on my other computer. However, this will give me a wonderful opportunity to send everybody to the Writers Drinking Whiskey podcast interview with
there you
Jason J.
go.
Willis, where I do recite said poem.
Okay. All right. So it's let's put that in the chat. The Writers Drinking Whiskey.
The Writers Drinking Whiskey podcast, yes. It's about 2/3 of the way through, but yeah, just watch the whole thing. Pepper will
Okay.
tell you the timestamp if you
Yeah.
want. I'll
Pepper, if you've got that
volunteer.
memorized, pop it in the chat. Yeah. Or if you've got a link, feel free to share the link too. So, all right. Let me just check in the chat. Any other questions for Jason here from the chat? There we go. Jen, thanks, Jen, for providing the link. Yeah. Well, I'm waiting for those questions to pop up. You're going to be at Lit RPG Con. It's 4 days, right? 4 or 5 days here. We get started.
I'm going to be there
Where
Wednesday.
are we going? Even early. That's great. You can get the lay of the land before we all get there. But where are we going to find you at Con? Are you going to be hanging out with the games? Are you going to panels? Are you going to be in the bar? Yeah, where are you going to be at?
I'm going to be avoiding Steve after that comment. Also known as Top Up. No, I am going to be. I'm going to be doing at least some. Going to watch at least some of the panels. I'm going to be stalking Meph for all of her food recommendations because she finds great places, and I'm going to be following all of the. I'm going to be stalking all of the places that she is setting up for people. So I'll be socializing a bit that way. I'm going to be. I'll be gaming on Friday, but that's a set thing. I'll be going to the gaming room, seeing if there's any gaming going on. There's a stand for Starlit Publishing, which does the System Apocalypse books. So I'll be there at least some of the time. I'll sometimes hang out maybe at the podium because they did the audio. Although the thought of going over to the podium area gives me imposter syndrome for the first time. You always hear about imposter syndrome. I usually don't suffer from imposter syndrome, but when thinking about going and being over by where Heath Miller too, but Heath Miller and all of those guys, I get imposter syndrome when dealing with the amazing narrators and authors that, for some of these things.
The narrators are so funny because they're like the extroverted folks at the cons, right? So like the authors are all huddled, kind of afraid of people, and then the narrators are just hamming it up, talking to everybody.
That's true. A lot of them are actors and stuff, and I'm kind of in the middle. I say I'm an ambivert, but really it's more accurate to say I'm an introvert that's done acting. And so I have a different persona that I put on for public events that isn't that's the same one that I would use if I got up on a stage to some degree, and you just turn off all the other aspects,
all the rest of it.
I've done enough of that. I've done enough of that to kind of get over it, but then I'll still go back into my room and like close my eyes and be like, I have now been overwhelmed and
I need to recharge. Is Daryl going to be at the con? Is he making it?
Daryl sadly will not be. He did comment that he might be showing up next year, that he knows it exists.
Yeah. I think next year this con is going to be twice as big. So I'm happy for all of us that are going to be here this first year. We're going to get that achievement unlocked for the first year, but it's gonna grow. Yeah.
I think this year it's going to be half Lit RPG dedicated longtime fans and authors, and half people who've only read Dungeon Crawler Carl.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. The Dungeon Crawler Carl folks are showing up pretty consistently now at this point. So, well, we've got a question. What do you do for fun? When you aren't writing or working or doing all the things, what do you do for fun?
Okay, so pretending that that's an actual thing that occurs instead of something that used to occur. I even during my free time, I listen to Fights with Monsters and other audiobooks.
Mhm.
I when I'm cleaning, when I'm doing other things, I'll listen to audiobooks. I do like TV shows and movies. I like, especially the really geeky stuff, uh, Marvel and all that kind of stuff. I like uh, video games. I used to love massive multiplayer online role-playing games. I still would, but I just don't have time for them. They're
Mhm.
built to where you can't really enjoy them unless you're dedicating most of your life to them, and I just don't have the time to do it. So I play a lot of Diablo-type games, EVE Online, and not dedicatedly, just like little bits here and there when I have time. Things that I can play without having to spend a lot of time. I even tried to play Baldur's Gate, which I loved, but after
Yeah.
after starting to play it enough to actually really enjoy it, I'm like, I'm not writing, I'm doing this instead, so I have to stop.
Yeah.
I like to even go to movies. We do have, at least sometimes, a long running role playing game that we do, Pathfinder 2 RPG, with my son and my daughter and some of their friends that we play. My son's probably the best DM I've ever seen. He's fantastic. He will do high stakes. We did a campaign that was like a year long where we were playing 12 hours a day for 1 day a week, pretty much the entire year, and played all the way up to the top level epic like content. And we had built up all towards one epic moment, and he rolled the key roll to whether we were all going to get wiped out or we won in the center of the table in front of everybody. He would have let us all die. He would have let us all lose after a
Wow.
year of time into it. And he wasn't playing around. He's like right there in front of you. He's like, he is not the kind to fake die rolls.
Yeah. Yeah. So he's the next lit RPG great hit author, it sounds like, based on his DM skills.
Yeah, he would be much more of a crunchy, rules lawyery.
Yeah.
He would have a lot more system mechanics and intricacies and stuff that I can keep in my head.
Yeah. Yeah. Fair. We've got one more question. Iron Eyes is asking, how do you do the time balance of working full time and writing?
I don't. No, that's not a thing. If you're working full time, and I wasn't working full time. I was working when I wrote book one, I was working 60, 65 hours a week at my main job. And then I would come home and I would sit in front of the computer and I'd start writing. And then I'd be writing for a little while and then I'd be sleeping. And then there'd be a long string of E's on my screen. And I'd go back and I'd delete the string of E's and then I'd write a little bit more. And I don't even remember half of the process of writing that book, but it came out great, I think.
Mhm.
I had to do a lot of editing and a lot of redrafting, but I think it worked. It's a lot easier actually now in that regard for me to balance that out because I discovered Speechify, and I do not like the idea of using narration, selling books with narration by AI. But I love the idea of being able to listen to what I've already written to refresh my mind and to find problems and then redraft it. So I can listen to it, refresh my mind, remember it, see where the problems are, get in the right mind frame, and then go home and do the edit, redraft it, polish it up, put it in again, and then listen to it the next day, and then listen to the next one the next day. That I find incredibly useful and saves a lot of time.
Yeah, that's a process I haven't heard about. It's good. When you do that, do you listen on it at like one time speed or at a higher speed?
So it depends on what I'm doing at the time. Ever since I've gotten sick, I've been using one-time speed, but before that, I was often doing 2.5. My mind can multitask and I can listen to things at high speed and really, really pick them out well. There was a time when I was at the end of when I was doing the final redraft on book one, I was listening at 3.5 times speed and editing by ear while reading a different section
That's crazy.
by eye, and I can subdivide it because I work full time doing one thing while also listening to
Mhm.
audiobooks. So I've developed over years and 10 years of doing that, I've developed the skill that it's like segmenting my mind to where I can do both at the same time. And I found that I was able to edit the text and find problems while finding different problems by ear and going and fixing those. That did, as soon as I sent that back though, I was probably in a coma for a couple of days. It burned me out. It was something I could do, but it wasn't something I recommend as a normal strategy for life.
Well, we're just about at the end of that. We're at the hour, so let's wrap it up here pretty quick. But we've got to have a recommendation for Pop Pop. What book would you recommend that Pop Pop add to his TBR?
So Pop Pop already has some amazing books and some amazing books in his TBR, but I'm going to toss out Arcane Ascension. Okay. I think there's something really special about that series.
Good fucking choice.
Yeah, there's something really special about that book in the scope of it and the world and the talent system, and there's just it's next level shit in a lot of different ways, and I think it's a really good one to add to his list.
Mm-hmm.
That's you too, BJ. So I'm throwing you under the bus again.
Yeah. Well, thanks for that. And a final, thoughts, Jason. Where should we find you on social media? Where do we find out when your next book's coming out?
I am. The easiest way is probably just through the Amazon. It links all my stuff. But Starlit Publishing. I have my normal Facebook. I'm on Discord now. I do have an author page on Facebook as well. I should have links for these things ready when this is not my computer. I'm using my wife's computer. She's got the laptop, so it's got the camera and stuff. I've got a desktop.
Where are you hanging out? Are you on Facebook? Do you respond to Facebook messages, Discord messages?
I respond to Facebook messages. Now, after all of this, I respect the Discord messages in ways that I never would have. I wasn't usually on Discord, but I am now. I've gotten lots of new friends on Discord that we're going to stay connected even after this. So finding me on Discord, you can Google Jason J. Willis and find me on Amazon. It'll link it, or find me on Facebook or any of the people over there. You can go to Starlit Publishing, lots of different ways, but I wish I had a better click and paste set of links for you guys. But everybody, join me on my Facebook. Put follow on my Facebook author page. Put follow on Amazon if you want to follow me there. They'll notify you. I think Audible even has that now too, where you can follow authors.
Yeah. Well, thanks for that. I will say tomorrow we've got an interview between Richie and I talking about Stumbling Up, and maybe a live reading. Richie, I'm hoping.
Yep, that is the current plan.
Yeah. So join us tomorrow night, 8 p.m. Eastern, and you'll get to learn a little bit about my book that's out on Royal Road right now. So join us tomorrow. We've got 2 other interviews later this week. So they're gonna keep coming. So keep joining us. The hype is real. Lit RPG Con is gonna be amazing. So can't wait to see you there, Jason. Yeah.
Awesome.
All right.
Great to see you guys. Great to see all of the commenters except for Pop Pop, since he doesn't want to talk to me.
Yeah. Well, he'll probably get over himself.
It's probably because I banned him earlier.
Forget you for a cookie. Yeah.
He's going to get so many cookies. He's not going to want a cookie. I'll have to bring him a glass of milk.
Mm-hmm. There you go. Yeah. Well, thanks everybody for joining us. Have a good rest of your night, and we'll see you at Con.
Bye, all.
Right. Bye. Have a good night, everyone.